Hey, what is up, my guys? So today is week 5 of the Riftbound market update, and it is a jam-packed one, and some really big news just kind of came out at the last second. But I know this was the week of the T1. We had the second raffle for it. I hope the best of luck. I hope you guys got what you wanted for that. Look, I think they're going to do one more this week on the absolute scraps of whatever's left. So if, fingers crossed, you can make it on this last raffle, and maybe you guys can do it. Still no luck for me, but it is what it is when it comes to that, and we move forward. But let's start with the big news that just dropped. So someone happened to clip it. This is by Rudy Alpha Investments, and I'll just play it and then we'll talk afterwards about it.
Um, I guess I can share that. We are so PCG is working with good old Riftbound and the company to be their official grader for the events worldwide, and actually partnering with Riftbound as a exclusive thing. We're working on that, and kind of excited and proud of that. So I want to share that. That's kind of a new thing we have coming out pretty soon.
So if you don't know who Rudy is, or Alpha Investments is probably one of the biggest whales when it comes to TCGs. They are by far the biggest when it comes to Magic. And at this point, I do not know of a single whale bigger than him when it comes to sealed modern, or I know he owns a substantial vintage when it comes to Pokemon. He's also huge into One Piece. I mean, he does White Schwartz. Um, I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that he does. Yeah, Flesh and Blood, Sorcery. So he does all of them, and it's huge. PCG is his grading company, Premier Card Grading, that he owns 69% in. So for PCG to exclusively work with Riot and be the exclusive one for on-site grading, that is massive because the amount of eyes that are on him and his opinion on certain things. So apparently, at his level, he thinks that Riftbound is good enough where he wants to make this level of a deal. He also mentions when it comes to Gundam and Riftbound, like when he gets restocks, because he does have part ownership in a bunch of LGS, and he does work with a bunch of LGS. That's just one or two cases for both those games. So I mean, when it comes to his stockpile of cards, he probably doesn't have much. So if it is something where he wants to enter these first four sets, he is going to have to buy on secondary. Um, and if when he does a secondary accumulation, he normally doesn't talk about it when he was buying SPCs for Prismatic on the secondary. He only mentioned it after he bought them all, and then we saw a big spike on it after that video. So it will be telling if we do see some under tide of like someone buying a lot consistently and the market start rising, and then he drops the news that he's in it. But maybe this is also a partnership for future sets that he's going to have with Riftbound and Riot, where he's going to get substantial. I know I've never been a Patreon. If he does start going that route, I would love to be a Patreon, because that's I mean, getting cases at wholesale price for a monthly payment, I'm totally down for that. So that is something that I would be looking at if he ever drops that level of announcement. And I'm one person, I know there's a lot of people, but you can see I have highlighted here in blue for last week. That means that was our known reprint window when they first dropped. We're still getting trickles in of it now, but these are the big drops. Woo, guys, I mean, we dropped $50 and we're right back. We dropped 20 some dollars, we're right back, actually higher. And if I click over to Origins, we're at 295. Once again, my prices are the last sold from the previous day. So on August 22nd, we're gonna probably outsell on August 23rd. Let's go back. Close this tab. 307 sold again. We had one day that was like 100 some of that. So skew that as you will. Yeah, on the 16th, 109 of them sold. So Sunday last week, we remember noting that average sold 43 and supply 91. We cut the supply substantially. You can see 99 left, and we have a couple of these BS listings. But also, I count for those 20 that were bought today. I want to do that level of calculation. So the supply is even lower than this calculation is now. Cases up $225. Case premium about 304. Pack price, and then we have the set value. So this is the set value without signatures. Expected value is actually $4 lower because more cards are just entering the market, and our ratio is still slightly below 1 this week. So I can't say it enough. Origins just can't be beat. I can't think of another TCG who's just doing their first set like Riftbound did. It is just a hyper playable, hyper collectible. It's just the best base set we've ever seen when it comes to TCG. So moving on to Spirit Forge, we're at $220. for the set, 225 now with that. We sold 217. So we did actually go down when it came to this one, and a decent chunk, but relatively. Supply is sitting at 107, so hyper thin. We sold more than the actual supply, so we can do a calculation of how much actually comes onto the market. The booster box price for the case is actually less than the price still. So once again, if you're buying a quantity, there is no case premium. You can actually just get it cheaper by the case, which is always awesome. We love to see that. And then the set value you can see is actually 3,977, which is actually almost 1,000 higher than Origins. Just to note, this top 10 chase card, I will be removing that line next time just because I find it irrelevant with how calculations of market price are going with that. So, first that struck me as odd, like, oh, my calculations must be off. How am I getting that number? And then I realized, and we'll go over to this tab, the showcase, minus the 12 signatures, we have 72, and Origins actually has 54. So that means, assuming the odds of pulling an overnumber or a showcase is actually the same, pull rate between both Spirit Forge and Origins is about 1 per 3 box. Say they're about equal. Because there's more of them in Spirit Forge, that would make these overnumbers actually more rare, the non-signature versions, more rare than the non-signature versions in Origins. So it's just one of those things when you're looking at the math. If you're just saying this is the Kaisa to Kaisa is a 1 to 10 ratio, it's actually not going to be a 1 to 10 ratio. It might be because there's just so many overnumbers you can pick. It might be like a 1 to 12 ratio where there's actually there's quantity wise, percentage wise, there's going to be less of these overnumbered non-signatures. So it's just something to think about. Does the market actually factor that in? Maybe it's time we do another video where we compare the most recent sales for signatures versus their overnumbers and see how they actually perform. That would take me a bit, but I think it's a worthy video to see how they actually stack up. For that being said, me as a collector, I buy over numbers. I don't buy signatures. If it's a card that I really want, so say set 7 is the Shyvana is going to be in the set, I will be buying that in a PSA 10 signature version. Or at this point, maybe I'm going to be buying a PCG pristine 10 for Shyvana, a gold and white label. So I collect over numbers raw, and then I'm going to be buying the signatures in tens. So that's my strategy. I love the artwork. I would love to do a binder of all the champions when we get to that point. So I don't focus on signatures just because I understand that's for high-end collectors. I'm not a vendor. I'm not trying to quick flip slabs or anything. But if one does pique my interest, I probably will. I would love this art. Is by far my favorite artwork so far. I would love that in a PSA 10. It's just not realistic for me and my budget right now, or at least my goals of investing. So like I said, I will just collect the flat non-signature cards. Let's move down to Unleashed. Once again, we saw the price climb. Maybe not so much this week when it came to Unleashed. Total sold is slowing down, and the supply is also going down, so they're about equal when it comes to that. Like I said, this is just a beast. Maybe this is finally we hit the point where it just plateaus off, and this is what we're expecting. Case price, $50 less actually, but booster box price is still more than if you just bought the solos. Cards actually, or the raw pack price. Set value without signatures. Now this one I also know I did not include the Baron, which is the ultimate card, so also take that with a grain of salt there. These just aren't valued as high as Spirit Forge. I think there's actually even more, because you have things like the Poros and the alt arts and everything in the set. So I think this one even has more of the showcase cards when it comes to Unleash. But you can see the EV staying about the same in this 100 to 110 range, is going slightly up. We did see a couple good runs on certain decks from this one in the Barcelona this weekend. I've yet to sit and go through all the results for everything. I also don't want to spoil any of you on it. I do know who wins, but I'm not going to spoil those results if that's not something you care about or you want to know right now. That just ended earlier today. And the big thing that I'm looking at is Vendetta. I truly have been saying that the supply just is not meeting the actual demand when it comes to this set. Total sold still sitting at 355 a couple weeks after release. It just can't be stopped, and there's just not enough coming to market. It's now at 156.98. I didn't know, slightly higher than the last sold on the 22nd. Selling over 50 a day, and the supply dropped another 20. It's just not going to keep up. I do hope more come to market when it just comes people that are holding it and just kind of want to get rid of some. If anything, it's going to zone out around the same place of Unleashed. I think is slightly better than Unleashed, so I would be shocked if this levels out around the 180 to 190 range, but it just continues to go up. And it's going to keep doing that from here on out until we get a massive reprint. In last month, 2,482 sold. I think that's the most, but once again, we had the release right here. So it's to be expected on type one of those things. Yeah, 307 on the release date. So it's gonna keep climbing and climbing unless more comes to market. And sellers slow down because we have this, we had some pretty great decks from um, Barcelona this weekend. So it's just one of those things. Set value is actually 4,540. It is the highest. So if we go to Vendetta, let's go to cards, and we go to rarity. Let's go 68. So it's actually slightly less than Spirit Forged and what's it called? Unleashed. But some of these over numbers because like the Kales, Diana, like all these cards are just so high right now. All of these split arts, and I'm thinking, yep, the SPs are on here. You have Ari sitting at $81 for market. Kaisa sitting at 89. These are carrying a lot of weight too. So I still think that there's an underappreciation of Vendetta. Like I said, maybe not the strength of the set, though we do have some pretty strong cards in here with the Kennen and Nasus. I think the overall vibe that people were giving Vendetta was, quite, oh, it's the same tier as Unleashed. I think they're wrong. I do think there's a couple cards that fall flat. The Renekton for sure falls flat very much for me. I'm going to be a hater. I don't think the Sakali, I think they could have done her way more justice when I've seen some of her splash arts in the game. I think the artwork for Zed, I can't think of the pastel, and I think the art for the Jace are just so much superior. Even the Kennen, I think the Kennen's better than the Akali. So haters can say what they want on that one. I think the Akali's overhyped, but I just understand that the champion herself is one of the most fan favorite champions in the game. So either way, besides those points, EV staying about the exact same for the last 3 weeks. We did expect it to come down from the initial release week just because more cards come to market as price goes up, but EV stays the same. We get a reduced ratio. This is very common. It just seems this 0.6 range, 0.6, 0.5 for Spirit Forge, and then Origins is just absurd. So overall, a lot of big things going on this week. We had the T1 box, we have this new news with PCG, and maybe we have some bigger whales moving to the market. But as all things do, everything just went up, and I have a feeling it's going to do the exact same thing next week because I'm hearing no new supply of any of these 4 sets coming to market. So if you guys are making any big moves, please let me know. In the meantime, write down any of the other comments about how you feel about the market and where you're moving stuff. And with that, peace out, guys. Thanks.